Collier. I asked the Taoiseach earlier, would the government formally recognise the Palestinian state in keeping with the motion of support that the Oireachtas has passed, and which the government has failed to act on? So he may have just slipped his mind, just to give him the opportunity perhaps to answer that. Now I think it would send a very, very clear signal if the government was to act on the wishes of on this important issue. On the Misuse of Drugs Amendment No. 2 bill, in a speech in London, Minister Eoin O'Riordan is quoted as saying that he's confident that the Cabinet will agree to legislation that will allow for the provision of medically supervised injection centres for use by intravenous drug users. It's a matter of wonderment to me why he doesn't make these statements in the Dáil and why he goes to London to make these statements. But that to one side, he's also indicated his support for the decriminalisation of small quantities of drugs for personal use. Has this matter, Taoiseach, been discussed by the Cabinet, and when do you expect the Misuse of Drugs Amendment No. 2 bill to be published? On the issue of rent certainty, we were promised legislation. The Minister involved, Alan Kelly, on September the 28th, made a commitment on this on the back of other commitments. You'll know, Cian Collier, that since the government took office, that rents have gone up by 35%, but nothing has been done to tackle these increasingly unaffordable rates. And you'll also know, Cian Collier, that there are 1,500 children in homeless accommodation in this city. And we're told that the next election will be a choice between stability and chaos. How much chaos can a family put up with, or indeed what amount of chaos must there be in this Cabinet that they can't settle their minds on such an urgent and important and crisis issue? So when will we see the government's emergency legislation to tackle homelessness, and when will the government publish its promised and proposed legislation on rent certainty?
I dealt with this before you came in today, Deputy Adams. Obviously, the government and Minister for the Environment have done a great deal of work in respect of rough sleepers, homelessness in general, in terms of the HAP regulations being changed, modular housing, return of voided units to habitable condition, and targets set and money in place in regard to over 200 sites being opened now around the country for social housing to deal with the fundamental issue of supply of housing. Minister for Finance and Environment are talking about a number of other immediate issues and ones for the for the medium and longer term, and I hope that they can conclude those discussions this week. And if legislation is necessary out of that, then government will obviously give consideration to that. The motion that was passed before in respect of Palestine, I'll come back to Deputy Adams on the work that follows through from that motion, what it actually means. Misuse of Drugs No. 2 bill is due for next year, though there is a court case of which I can't determine the outcome, obviously, but it may have a bearing on when that might apply. I think I can't do anything about it until that decision is made, I think. The other matter that you raised about the discussions at Cabinet in respect of legalising small quantities of heroin, that matter has not been discussed at the Cabinet table. There have been references in the past to supervision of needles for drug users, but the question of legalisation of small personal quantities of heroin has not been discussed.
Deputy Greaves.
Gurmahagut Kencarla, on proposed legislation, I'd like to ask the Taoiseach and outline from that. Like in Galway City alone, 60% of the burglaries carried out in Galway City and County are being carried out mostly by repeat offenders, and particularly people that are heroin abusers, and I'm sure that's a lot the same in a lot of our major cities in around our country. And Taoiseach, it's very frustrating for the Gardaí who it's very frustrating for the Gardaí who are in these people and they're back on the streets again within hours. Some of them don't even spend a number of months in jails, and they're back out on the streets again. Taoiseach, the number 45 bill, the bail bill, when do you expect that bill to come before the Dáil? Because these people that are out on bail are re-offending people again, Taoiseach.
Yeah, the bail bill is is before the Dáil. The burglaries of dwellings bill is in next week, and you will be aware, Deputy Grealish, of the Minister and the Commissioner for the Gardaí's comments yesterday in respect of specific monies being allocated by government to deal with the spate of burglaries carried out by a small number of well-known criminals. And these are matters to which the members of the House will be able to contribute. This is an issue that's of concern to us, and it's one that the government have responded to with requests from the Garda Commissioner to provide facilities and opportunities to deal with this and involve our communities in having the information passed to the Gardaí at the earliest possible time.
Deputy Durkin.
In order to maximise the efficacy of